Greetings all! Today, we will be examining the common normal-type Pokemon Skwovet, the Cheeky Pokémon, and its relatively common evolution Greedent, the Greedy Pokémon. Adorable in appearance, but an annoyance to many a farmer, the members of the Skwovet family are interesting rodents that take the idea of storing food for later to an entirely new level. Skwovet have small bodies with light grey fur on most of their form, with darker splotches of grey on their tail and the tips of their ears, as well as 4 three-toed feet that they use for locomotion. Their massive, bushy tail serves as their main drawing point opposite their head, which has a light grey patch of fur on the underside and mouth area, black eyes, a peach-colored nose and ear markings, and a single large front incisor they use to keep their perpetually stuffed face capable of biting through most types of berries. The evolved form Greedent have the same general body form, but their bodies are now covered in chestnut brown fur, darker in color on the underside of their tail, torso, and lower face. They now have 2 front incisors that stick out strongly from their mouth and have developed an extra digit on each of their hands, having been forced into a more bipedal stance due to the sheer size of their tail. The members of the Skwovet family are squirrels biologically speaking, and share much in common with their non-Pokemon counterparts, namely in their feeding habits and the way in which they hoard food for later use. These creatures almost entirely feed on berries alone, and have a strong front incisors that can allow them to not only crack through the shells of even the toughest of berries, but in turn deliver nasty bite attacks at a fairly young age, even if their jaw strength is not great enough for them to learn the Hyper Fang attack naturally, only Super Fang. While farmers tend to see them as pests because of their penchant for stealing and eating large volumes of berries, they are otherwise a benign presence for the most part and are not a hazard for most. This also comes down to them not being very fast or skittish, and tending to stay around even if they might be in imminent danger from attacks by an outside source. These creatures, Skwovet especially, generally cannot stand to have an empty mouth and will try and keep their faces stuffed at all times. Otherwise, they tend to feel anxious and worried and will readily seek out anything they can insert into their mouth in the meantime, even if it might not be something that they normally would eat. This translates directly into their signature stuffed cheeks technique, which allows them to eat a held berry to sharply boost their defense stat, as well as their only primary ability, cheek pouch, and those that are particularly voracious are capable of possessing gluttony as a hidden ability. While they might not look that powerful, these creatures have very robust, sturdy frames that not only allow them to take and deal physical punishment quite well, but also give them a deceptive amount of stamina that is unseen among normal-type rodent Pokemon, allowing them to easily take hits that might otherwise knock them out. This is especially reflected in their base stats, as looking at Greedent in particular, it can be seen that their base HP, attack, and defense stats are above average for a fully evolved normal-type Pokemon. This might be counterbalanced by the fact that most of their other base stats are really poor, but this nonetheless means that these critters can be a bit of a pain to handle with physical attacks alone, and definitely not targets that will go down easily in a close quarters fight. Skwovet do not have a lot to offer in terms of pure offensive might for much of their life, relying on moves like tackle and bite to fend off others, but are benefited in that they can get access to a body slam attack close to evolution, allowing them to make some use of their bodies for direct offense. While these creatures are often a scourge to berry farmers for their voracious appetites, these creatures are otherwise seen as friendly entities and are usually left alone by others or otherwise fed for the fun of it, though they can still make handy meals for bird Pokemon that are able to peck their way through their otherwise impressive stamina. What really makes these beasts interesting though is the fact that they are actually the reason why there are so many berry trees throughout the land of Galar where they are primarily found. As it turns out, these creatures are very environmentally conscious and realize that their appetite makes them a danger to the survival of the berry trees they tend to feast upon. To make up for this, these creatures will use their strong sense of smell to find fertile patches of ground and spit out the seeds of the berries they eat and bury them to promote tree growth. Since the soil in the Galar region is particularly quite rich in most parts, this then explains why berry trees can be found in many different parts of the region, especially all over Galar's wild area. This works well for allowing their kind to spread its influence everywhere and further helps to show why they are so common, with a large ecosystem that supports them and grows larger and larger with every passing year. This makes these resilient squirrels a common sight to see in the region, and not surprisingly, a favorite catch for many budding Pokemon trainers. Greedent, much as the species title might denote, are far, far greedier than their pre-evolved form and are much larger in bulk and size, which actually has the effect of dropping their base speed stats slightly as they evolve and explaining why they gain access to the Covet attack immediately after evolving. These creatures will often gather huge quantities of berries in their tail to store for later use, only to often overstuff them to the point where they exceed their carrying capacity and berries start to fall out of their tail. While this might be alarming to most, these creatures are not exactly the brightest of mammals and are dim-witted enough that they often don't notice the trail of dropped berries that follows them as they move about, something that unfortunately makes them an easy target for larger predatory Pokémon, Corviknight especially. These beasts will usually loll about when they are not feeding, enjoying the warmth of the open sun on their fur as they travel from place to place, though they will generally try to stick to a single area to feed without going too far away from their nesting area, making them a little bit more uncommon to see compared to their pre-evolved form. Even so, while they might look silly and fun, they can still fight back with potent attacks like Bullet Seed and even Belch at higher levels of experience, giving them a level of versatility that is absent among some of the rodent Pokémon, even if the latter attack cannot be used very well on account of their weak base special attack stat. As such, while these rotund squirrels can be quite friendly and love to share their berries if they have a surplus even on their standards, they can still put up quite a bit of a fight and make themselves a slight threat if not taken out quickly with special attacks. Though they might not seem to be the most dangerous of creatures, the members of the Skwovet family are fun-loving critters that can make good pets for those that don't mind the outdoors that much. You might have to sacrifice some food on a constant basis to keep them satiated, but their adorable faces and mannerisms can nonetheless make it worthwhile if someone is in need of a pick-me-up sight after a long, hard day. Just do yourself a favor and make sure not to get between them and a berry horde. They might be friendly to most under normal circumstances, but you'd best be wary of them if they look hungry, as they will gladly bite and gnaw on you until you get out of the way if it means getting to their treasure as quickly as they possibly can. Thank you all for watching this video. It is always an honor to be able to speak with you all on the subject of Pokemon in a way that brings me great joy and happiness in my work. If you would like to keep tabs on past and future work, click that subscribe button, check out my work on DeviantArt, and don't be shy about following me on Twitter, where you can find pertinent announcements on upcoming work before it is officially posted. Links to both can be found in the video description. If you would like to support my work and help Miguel and I continue to produce more content for you and improve upon our presentation, please visit us at my Patreon page, which you can also find a link to in the video description. With that, I thank you for watching and I wish you well.